to Brave Talks. Man, it is such an honor to have this conversation. My name is Manny Dominguez, and I'm here with my beautiful wife,
Marlene Dominguez.
And man, today we're going to jump right in because we have the honor of talking about change. Mm-hmm. When you hear that word, just don't even overthink it. What comes to mind? Like, how do you feel? You're really good with feelings. What happened in your emotional life?
You know, it's so funny. I didn't even think about emotion. As growing up as a dancer, I thought about like quick change.
Baby girl. Baby girl.
So it wasn't even like a real change. It was like, okay, quick change, like, and change.
There's
and
like,
1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7, 8.
There's like a message there.
I don't know.
Come on now.
You said don't overthink it.
All right.
I did it.
That's
I
what I'm
went
saying.
straight to it.
It's like a heavenly download.
That's
quick
it.
Change. Quick change.
And 1 and 2 and kickball change.
So when you quick change in dance, that's like to get to a different position. That's like a transitional movement.
You know what? You're right.
Just saying.
Yeah, when you change in dance.
Like get in a position to do the next step.
Yeah.
From the best
That's
spot.
literally the first thing that came to my mind.
You're so deep. Because we're going to talk about today how change is necessary.
Right.
But I think if our viewers and listeners are honest, when they heard change, maybe their stomach dropped.
But okay, so let me get that back to you. Like when you hear the word change.
You know, I'm not like as in tune with my feelings. Like you've taught me that. And we'll do an episode on that at some point soon. The tension with like men and women and feelings and all that. But what I feel is like work. When I hear change, I think about como que me pongo así. Like I tighten up a little bit. And I think about energy outpouring. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, change does require energy and it does require...
Like, I feel like I was bracing. Like, when I hear the word change, I'm bracing for change. It's almost like I don't want to get caught off guard. I mean, who does? And I want to, like, do a good job in the midst of a change.
Right.
It's like, I don't want... Dicen eso mucho. Like, people say, you don't want to get caught with your pants down. Or say, like, you don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I felt.
That's a heavy saying, but I get it.
I know.
I get it.
Yeah. So, anyway, change. You and I, my darling...
We've been through some changes. We're about to go through a whole change right now.
Well, I feel like change is our middle name.
Legit. I feel like change is like our lives word.
I don't have a middle name. What do we...
And I think you feel some type of way about that.
Yep, I do.
Because I don't think you've ever let it go.
Brave talk. So I'm going to just be brave and cry right now.
You said your middle name for a long time.
Don't.
Let me not even... I'm not even going to put...
Blow it up.
I'm not because I respect you.
I'm giving you permission.
No, they don't need to know that.
Okay. Well, maybe if you comment enough, I don't know, 15 comments, if you want to...
I know you lying.
I don't know how to do this podcast thing. 20 comments, we want to know your middle name. And
we'll let you
know
later on. We'll just kind of hint it. But,
so I don't have a middle name, but I did want one forever, a specific one that we may reveal. What if change becomes my middle name? You don't like that?
You know, I'm not surprised. You wanted to name one of our sons Art, so...
Art, A-R-T. Comment below if that's dope. Art. Come on.
So I'm not surprised, but it definitely will bring meaning to who we are in our marriage and everything, because if any couple in the world has been through millions of changes, it would be us. Like, we've gone through the most intense changes in a very small period of time.
To the point where, like, it should have ruined us. Like, I want to say this, and then I want us to talk about our stories. I think it'll bless people. If you're in a season, wherever you're watching or listening from, of change and transition, and you feel overwhelmed, you feel like in over your head, you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, all you see and feel is the shaky or rocky ground under you, and you're like... It's helpful when you can at least see firm foundation.
Always.
So it's like, you know, people say sometimes you are in a season of transition from, like, you know, the kitchen where you're like preparing to like the bedroom where you're like resting and abiding. But when you find yourself in the hallway and you're like, I've been in the hallway so long that I'm not necessarily preparing for anything anymore or resting.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in like this liminal space. And that's not fun. And so wherever you are in your season of change, we see you and we hope this blesses you. So babe, let's see. First change, you know, I remember, I mean, we would go way back, but we'll save that for some other time.
Yeah.
I remember I dropped out of college to start Brave Movement. which was our dance company that we started a decade ago in Wash Heights, New York City. That was a big change.
It was a huge change.
Because, I was studying business and management, and I just remember feeling one day, I'm going to just start doing this thing. And I called my best friend Lennox. I'm like, man, you want to do this thing? And we did. And it blessed so many people for a couple years in Uptown. You taught ballet. Your class was the biggest. And we had so many dancers come through, and it was amazing. And then we moved to Texas after that. So we were not engaged yet.
No.
We were seriously dating.
You moved first.
And I moved first.
Yeah.
You allowed me to do that crazy change, like not fearing what that could do to our relationship. Did you just feel like if our love was deep enough, we will make it through? Like,
I don't think I allowed you. We partnered with what God wanted us to have, because the funny thing about us coming here is not like we heard a definite yes, and it's not like we heard a definite no. We heard a very much like an I trust you. And that was amazing, because we needed that to take that risk of bravery, right? So it's not that I allowed you, it's more so I kind of was very much in tune of like, okay, God is going to do something crazy with this season. You need to go. But yes, to answer your question, yes, I do feel like our relationship was deep enough for us to not go our separate ways, but you launched something, and you have always just been so mature and ready to do certain things. And I was still kind of, like you said, I'm more like emotional first. So I kind of needed to finish what I had in New York City instead of coming with you. And it also helped for purity. Like, it was nice to have that separation.
That's what I'm saying. We weren't even engaged yet. So for you
when you moved, we were engaged.
Right. But when I came and explored moving here,
we weren't.
We were not.
No, but at that point, we weren't dating just to date. You know what I'm saying? We weren't dating.
Man,
we weren't dating. We knew we had plans for each other. And what's cool is that you involved me in a lot of those plans. You were like, hey, if, I move and take this job, we're wanting to get married in the future. What does that look like for us? And for me, that was a definite, like, you were inviting me in the process. You weren't just kind of like saying, honestly, I'm getting a job at Fort Worth. You coming or you staying? It was like, we fasted, we prayed, we really try to figure it out together, because we knew that this was going to be our life. So
that's really deep. So like, if we're adding value to our community here tuning in, we're saying change is a little more feasible and like digestible when you do the work of prepreration.
Absolutely.
Like you just said, which I appreciate you saying that, you were like, you've always been like prepared and mature for something like that. So it's like, what do they say? If you stay ready, you don't got to get ready already. And so yeah, like there is a thing of we should expect almost change.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the extent that you and I have changed, and we'll talk about that, but growth requires change and vice versa. Change requires growth. Well, at least we hope that as you're changing, you're growing and not just changing for the worse and declining. Right. And so I move here.
You move here.
You're still in New York City. You're finishing, you're teaching and all that stuff.
I'm planning our wedding.
You're planning our wedding from up there. Oh, mama. And that was like a 7-month season from July to February. So
you lived with amazing people who became family to us, the Herreras.
Yes, lived with the Herreras. They're incredible. And even that was a change because, now I'm like in a different home. I'm sure it was a change for them as well.
A whole different culture and everything.
But it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Moved here to the South, 2016, summer.
To do?
It was an election year. I moved here to work at an amazing church and to be a youth pastor here formally. And it was such an interesting spot because there was so much happening, like politically.
It was heavy.
And culturally. And when I moved to the South, babe, that was the first time. I think the same is true for you whenever you moved here.
Yeah, we've never left New York. This was our first time moving.
Right. And that was the first time, though, I saw a Confederate flag in my life.
That was scary.
That was the first time I experienced microaggressions as a person of color. And even like blatant racism a time or two as well. So I'm like, it's just incredible what changing your context can do for your perspective. And so again, that wasn't necessarily fun at all, but that change allowed me to see things that I only read about or heard about through other people or saw in movies. Yeah. But experiencing that, that I think that changed my heart. And at first, babe, I'll be honest, I think that changed my heart for the worse first.
Yeah.
I started feeling a little bit of like, not bitterness, but whatever like the lesser feeling of that is, like discouragement and lack of hope, and like, man, this stuff is real. Like, people in majority cultures could be so mean and condescending, and I think I felt so. Yeah, I feel like my heart, maybe you could say this too, was changing from like a heart of flesh to a heart of stone, like hardening a little bit to like, oh, like I don't like
this. But you
this.
didn't let it get to stone.
Yeah.
Which is so important.
Yeah,
like,
I kept the love on.
You did, and you served people well. And honestly, would you say like 95% of the time it was all love? It was just like,
word. The people in the actual church were amazing.
It was a blessing.
Amazing. And that, I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
When you're going through a hard season of change for the better, for the worse, if you don't have anyone at all in your circle that can love you,
you can stay stuck there.
That can champion you, that can say, I'm here for you. Yeah, that's when the heart becomes stone.
100%.
Because nobody is kind of like leveling it off, balancing it with the beauty.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what happened to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying I was the most, like the reason we came, I was the biggest reason, but I was very much like,
you were championing, as I'm saying.
I said, why not? Why not do it? Let's go. Let's figure out a different culture. And but I didn't consider moving 3 weeks before my wedding, not having my license in a drivable city. Like you can't walk. It's not a walkable city like New York City, Washington Heights, you know.
And you don't need your license in Uptown NYC.
No,
so
you don't. Like, I've never really considered having that. You got it because you just wanted it.
Yeah.
We, you know, I didn't care much for it. I really didn't like the idea of being inside of a car all the time. But I moved through 3 weeks before my wedding. We actually got married here, planned my wedding from New York. Again, I think I wasn't prepared for the change as I thought I was going to be. Like, I've gone through changes, but because we had so many changes at one time, that's kind of what really messed with me. Because again, wedding, license, I bought my house through FaceTime. If you know me, you know I can't say I'm the most type A, but I like my things in order, and I love what I do. I trust this man so much to like go. I mean, I also trust Angela, who was our realtor and like spiritual mom at the time. And I bought my house through FaceTime. Like, they FaceTime me, and I was just like, make sure we have these amount of rooms or whatever. So I'm entering into a new room, a new home, a new space, a marriage, right? Yep. I'm changing my last name. I'm changing my group of friends. Yep. I don't have a job lined up for me. My husband has a whole community of pastors and people in his life, and they taken me in so well. But I'm saying I did not really think about what people do in like 10 years, we did it in like 3 weeks. Yeah,
it's crazy. First house, first car.
I had to say goodbye to all my close friends on my wedding day.
Oh my word.
And that was really hard for me. So I became I was a person who was really championing this, this move. And then I became really a shell of myself. Like, again, moving through a really, really intense election year and then seeing all the things. I mean, I saw that Confederate flag wasn't down like...
It was just three
houses down. So for the first 2 weeks, not 2 weeks, sorry. The first 2, honestly, before I had kids, I never really went on a walk. And it's not like my neighborhood made me feel scared or anything, but... that was a strong statement. And I just have never experienced anything like that, or things that I was seeing, or even like my accent and who I sound like, because I've never met a Dominican New Yorker, or my hair, people wanted to touch my hair. It was just kind of like, what is happening right now? I know things could be worse, but this right here is very frustrating. So I became my heart became a little stone, and it really limited me for a while for me to be open to new friendships. Like I was not open and not willing as I thought I would be to receive new friendships, mostly because I think I was the only woman of color in my friend group for like the first 3 or 4 years of my life here.
That's so, what you're saying is so helpful, because when you think about change, which is what we're talking about, we try to like hold on to whatever we can as things are shifting.
Right.
So the picture I get, because I'm so visual, so are you, I get a picture of like, you know, and this is so crazy, like when there's like, tornadoes. Yes, tornadoes that come through awful natural disasters, and like they I mean, they like literally couldn't pick up a whole house and remove it. And I just get this picture of like the tornado of change, like sweeping through a season of our lives. And as we see it coming, if we're lucky, we see it coming and we're like, oh, okay, well, grab whatever you can. We start holding on to things so that we like can at least have something to grab once the tornado was through. And then sometimes I think we get so caught up and try to hold on to things that we ourselves get caught up in the tornado of change and we lose ourselves.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know who I was for a while. Like I've never struggled with that intensive identity as a Christian. It was just more like, I know who I am. I know what to give. We also came at the time, our church was way more conservative than I ever thought it would be. I'm not saying we came like twice to kind of check it out. And we knew kind of what we were kind of walking into. But once you make that your everyday life, it was just so different. But fast forward to, I think, just being pregnant with Levi and finding mom community and all the things. And then honestly, God is so, like, I can't say silly, but he's so witty because he ended up flying out. Like our community today are mostly
a lot of New Yorkers now that have moved here.
A lot of cool. Like transplants, right? Like my best friend's from Chicago, my other best friend's from Guam, my other best friend's from New York. Like I have so many people coming from all different places, which is what I feel like my soul longed at in the beginning. But then in the middle of God bringing on those people, I had people like friends in my life who were also transplant, but not like from different countries or whatever, you know, or I guess American, who loved me really well, you know, in this season of change for me. And were very patient, who are still friends with me to this day.
So you're saying two things. There were both people that, one, the Chicago, the Guam, they were also going through change. So there was like a connection. A connection of like, yo, we're like, let's do this together. Like let's journey together as we're going through change. And then you also had people that were from that context already that helped you settle in from your change because they're already from here. Yeah. And they themselves weren't necessarily going through change.
But the thing about them being from here is that some of them weren't from here. Some of them were like from Oklahoma or another people from Chicago, but they looked like everybody else from here. And then that kind of created a bit of a friction because I'm like, I'm still not finding kind of like my people. I'm not saying I had to have people that look like me. It's just a more comfort thing, like opinions and everything else. It was just more comfortable. But they stood beside me and I was able to still form a relationship and little by little just let go of that shell, you know? So we lived here and we've been here for you've been here for how long? You're going to make 10, right?
Well, no, it'll be 9.
9.
It'll be 9.
I just made 8 years living here and it has been the most wonderful. Those first few years were really, really difficult, like transition and change. And we have people championing us and being behind us, but we have been so blessed and full of love.
Yeah, because sometimes your invitation is to like, you try to hold on to things in the middle of change, but sometimes the invitation is to like leave it all in the house.
That's right.
Like going back to that like tornado picture, tornado, like leave it all in the house and just get out. Like the invitation is to get out because there's something new in store. As a matter of fact, I got a verse from Isaiah 43:19, and this is such a great word. See, I'm doing a new thing. This is God speaking through Isaiah. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. This word came at a time where like it was needed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was dire need. Change had come and there was like not a good change. And it was like, what are we going to do?
What are we going to do?
I know we have found ourselves there. What are we going to do when that like report comes in that, you know, maybe the doctor's visit didn't go the way we hoped, or like going back to like the endo conversation, or thinking about family dynamics, thinking about moving, thinking about, I mean, you got your license. We didn't say that. You finally got your license
and
a couple
I'm
years.
A beast driver.
She's an amazing.
I drive really well.
She's a very defensive driver, great driver, very safe.
I did get my license. I got over that fear.
That was huge, though.
It was humongous.
Yo, tell us that real quick. She pulled up to the DMV thing, to the driver
when
road
I got my
test.
license?
Yes, and it's like not 12-year-old, 16-year-old, 18-year-old, 16-year-old, like on their birthdays. Beast didn't get their license. And then Marlene walks in like at 27, like, hey, Marlene, I'm ready for my test, you know. But it's so beautiful that you are willing to undergo that kind of change, that season of your life, because it was necessary.
100%.
Sometimes changes are required. We didn't have to come here.
No.
We didn't have to leave New York City to come here. We just felt like we were supposed to, but we didn't have to.
Yeah,
God is kind that he didn't force us.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're like living here and you're like, yo, I need to be able to drive, to like be able to get around. And so that change was more required, and you did it, shorty.
I did. Thanks to you and a few friends who helped me drive.
Yeah.
Who were bold enough to get in the car with me.
I did a couple of driving lessons with my sweet wife.
That's okay. You got to know cops, okay?
That's a change you got to make, and we did it.
At the time, he was my husband, my manager, everything else. I was not trying to have him be my driving instructor because you were tough. You were tough on me because you made me defensive, but I was like, I don't need you to be talking to me like that. I get so with you.
Don't play. It was a teacher-student relationship, and you weren't having it.
No, I was like, you
outside of the car, I'm your boss. So in here, you're not about to be my boss.
No, I was like, brother, I'm watching things. Like, I'm coachable and teachable, but no, sir. Even to this day, when I'm driving, you're in the passenger seat a little bit nervous. I mean, you're more confident.
I just like driving. I just prefer to drive. But when you're in the passenger seat, you're like
that way.
You're trying not to backseat drive, but you're like
I'm your invisible turning signal.
Yeah.
No, we've switched those roles, which is pretty cool.
We've changed so much.
Yeah.
And again, change is a good thing. And I want to say, if I look at our lives and even what's coming, which we'll talk about in a second, like often on the other side of change is where you find your purpose or your greatness or, your next assignment or the relationship you were supposed to be in. Like, I just think about so many things in our lives, darling, that have been hiding, for lack of a better word, behind change.
Yes.
But change, can I say sucks? Change sucks.
Yeah, but change is good at the same time.
But change is also good.
Because we're about to enter to another change now.
So we've been here almost a decade.
Yes.
We've had our babies here. We'll have all 3 babies here. Mm-hmm. Got married here, which that was the littest wedding of all time. We may need to talk about that at some point. These people in Texas were like,
Texas.
I've never seen this much people dance, turn up. These Dominicans are incredible. Conga line crazy. Everybody from the wedding was going crazy.
Hey.
Liddy. Talk about like the meeting of 2 worlds too.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah, our Texas friends and our New York friends.
I wish I could have kept that like forever.
Oh, that was incredible.
Yeah.
And so we've done all this here. We've like your content creation business blew up here.
Yeah.
Like it was already like scaling in New York City because you were an influencer before that was even a thing.
Yeah.
Like you had a heart for, well, you talk about it, women, identity, curly hair, standard of beauty being stripped away from
You're saying it great.
Women of color and it being like the standard of the like European beauty, straight hair, especially among Hispanics, African American women as well. And you're like, I'm going to start embracing my natural texture. Yeah. And that's how I started for you.
But it's so funny because I started that right before I moved. And then when I moved, I'm like, wait a minute. I just felt like I had no influence around me anymore.
Yeah, you went from being in New York City where people, I mean, it was, I say this and I'm candid, like, we were having meetups at like the local pizza shops and stuff, which was so cool.
I love people.
Supporting local businesses, but people were like, these young women were so, moms with their daughter. Right? Yeah, and encouraged like it's possible.
Yeah.
Because we become what we see.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is such a good word, when you think about change, if you have somebody in your life that you either know or can see, glean from on social media or whatever from a distance, if they could do it, something unlocks in you that you're like, I could do it too.
Yeah.
Change is hard, but if they were able to weather the storm of change, I could do it too. And I feel like, my love, you did that for people.
Aww.
As you pioneered like, what you would call the awkward phase of the hair transition journey where your hair is like trying to like blossom like a butterfly, but it had so much heat damage from decades of, al salon, going under the
And it was
blower.
less about my hair. It was more about my identity, you know?
Come on.
And about who God made me to be and me wanting to go back to that.
That's it.
And I think that's what made me stand out. But I also will have to say, I've been working a 9 to 5 since I was like a little girl.
Yeah.
I had my first job at 13 and moving here. Well, before I moved here, I was also a preschool teacher and a kindergarten teacher. And I had that on the side because, again, that wasn't the time where you really didn't know how to make money on social media like everybody wants to do now. But that...
this is what, 13 years ago? Because it was like, you started it at 2 or 3 years before we moved here.
Yeah.
And so like 12 years ago, I would say. That's a long time ago.
It is a long time. And I really loved it. And I built a great community that I love so very much.
Yeah.
But when I moved here, I try to continue teaching or doing like the 9 to 5, mostly because I needed to get out the house. I needed to do something. I couldn't be in the suburbs any longer. But I was blessed enough to transition to full-time motherhood and also full-time content creation in 2020. Well, a little bit before that, I think, because I was working for a nonprofit at the time, and I started my stay-at-home motherhood when I became a mom. 3 years into me living here, becoming a mom to Levi, and then being at home with him was my greatest calling. And I think things kind of blew up after I was at home. Because I didn't jump the 2020. I didn't ride the 2020 wave of social media. I kind of was postpartum and vulnerable and struggled with...
just struggling. We were just struggling.
We were just trying to figure life out. Yeah, it was a struggle year for us. So I became a full-time content creator and I loved it. I will have to say, even with that, change required a lot of discipline because change requires discipline, right?
If you want to do it well.
If you want to do it well, if you want to do it well and you want to be just content, unless you want to change and be a better human and just stay where you are mentally, you have to have some type of discipline to say, I'm not going back to what I'm used to and I have to move forward, right? So it became a discipline thing for me because I could no longer, I found myself being on my phone a whole lot and it wasn't even for work anymore. And in my mind, I was kind of telling myself it was from work, and I had to grow in that too, and just grow in being a mama at home, but also working and knowing when to schedule meetings and knowing all these things. It became a whole different, I mean, it was beautiful. It's just, again, required a lot of discipline. So I went from leaving the house and doing that, then being in the house. And I just love it. I really do love it. I've slowed down a lot this past year, mostly because I'm entering into a whole new season. This time, third time, I know what to value. Yeah. And I know how to really guard my thoughts. And even as simple as being off social media for a little bit or a lot of it right before I give birth, like that's what helps me. So, but I do have a great community that understands and loves me, and from all over the world. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's so good. That's so good. Like change is so required. It's needed. And so as we wrap up, we want to say, we are changing again.
Girl.
We are going to New York City after almost a decade of being here, kind of living the American dream in almost every way, shape, or form.
Having our community, my kids being in school, everything. I mean, we built our life here. We grew up here.
I want to say too, like sometimes people change because they absolutely need to. Like the situation is toxic, the relationship is bad, the job has been not good.
It's needed.
Like it's needed. Like, oh, you're changing. Why? And just people are concerned. It's like, for us, no. This change is not because anything is bad or wrong. The opposite is true. This has been amazing. And I think it's hard to distinguish between good and bad. Or excuse me, it's easy to distinguish between good and bad. Like it's clear, like, this is good, this is bad. It's pretty obvious. It's harder to distinguish or discern between like great and good, or like even like this is amazing, but this is what God wants you to do, like great and God.
Yeah.
Those could be trickier. And you know, praise God, when you land in either one, there's not a bad option, but we want to do whatever we're supposed to do in our next assignment in this life, not wasting a moment. And so for us, although it's been amazing here and we're leaving this spot better than we found it.
We did.
We are better than we were when we came here. We've matured here. For me, all of my 20s, think about this.
Yeah.
21 when I got here. So pretty much all of my 20s here. I'm 30 now. And now we get to go back home. to New York City. A place that if you know anything about New York City, if you're watching or listening from New York City or a transient city anywhere in our country, you know that in 9 or 10 years, that city is not the same.
No, like especially after the pandemic.
Yeah, we left it in a way. Now we're going back and it has changed so much. The pandemic's kind of post, time, the gentrification impact. Mental health impact. People that have like left the city.
Financially, everything.
That couldn't afford it anymore. And yet and still, Washington Heights, the place that we're going to go serve in Uptown Manhattan, there's still so many of our people there.
Yeah.
So many of the bodega owners, so many of our friends that, have grown and have careers, but still live in the Heights or serve the Heights. Teachers from the local schools that we've seen when we go visit. Like there's still a sense of beauty and community in the Heights that I don't know if it exists in any other neighborhood. So we're honored to announce here on episode 5 that we are going to go back to New York City to start a church called Brave Church NYC, which this podcast, Brave Talks, is kind of like the inroad or the pathway to what we want to establish in person, where we don't have to have these conversations only online like we're doing here. I hope this is blessing you, but that you could come and join us at our interest nights or our church services on a Sunday, and we could have more of these conversations together in person.
And we will talk about how we got there, how we...
That's a crazy cool story.
That is just a crazy cool story. Yeah, we're going to unpack it more because a lot of that came with obedience. And then it's kind of full circle again. Like, Lord, really? Like, I just got comfortable and I have my people here, but then also going back and knowing our families there. And just this heavy responsibility that we have to serve our people. But we will talk about more transitions and more of what that looks like and how we got to that decision. But overall, we're so excited. We're actually doing a crazy transition because we're having the baby and then we're moving a few weeks after. And then
selling our house,
we have my sister's wedding and getting, it's just so much. But
it's a lot. It is a lot. And yet and still,
it's not impossible.
It's not impossible, and it's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
Like if you're listening to us and there's about to be a brave step that you could take this week, and you're like, man, maybe you're afraid to make the change, and that's so valid, babe.
Yeah,
like we have been, remember, bravery is not the absence of fear, it's the presence of courage. It's not that I'm afraid so I won't do it, it's I'm afraid and I'll still do it.
Right.
So I want to just validate the emotion and like almost the overtaking of fear. That is a valid thing. And it should not be the thing that paralyzes you.
Right.
It's valid and it's there, but do it while it's there.
Do it anyway.
Is the courage. And so, yeah, your brave step this week, man. If you've been afraid of change, if you have been needing to make one, maybe you made the wrong decision, and this is kind of the hard thing when you like got to circle back on a decision.
That's always hard.
And change your posture, change your attitude, and say, hey, I was wrong. Ooh, that change, I don't love that now.
No.
But.
Or when you don't see the fruit of your change right away.
Oh, man.
Because I really thought we made the worst choice.
Yeah, at first we're like, what did we do?
What did we do?
Wow.
And then fast forward 8-9 years and we're like,
what did we do?
What did we do?
So good. Man, so yeah. So your brave step this week, in the midst of change, as change is looming, maybe change is behind you, will you just embrace faith? Embrace that. Maybe you're not exactly sure, like we weren't, if that change was the right decision, especially as it impacts other people. Maybe it's ahead of you and you're like, I think I need to make it. Maybe you're right in it, in the hallway, like we were talking about earlier. Wherever you are on the spectrum of change, we just want to encourage you to take the brave step of faith, to believe and hope for beyond what you can see, to say, okay, I may not see it yet, or it may not make sense completely, but I'm going to like lift up my soul, my spirit, like a sense of faith up to the clouds, what we believe is the Lord, and say, I trust you.
That's right.
That's your brave step this week. Elevate your trust, choose to trust in God, and let's just see what happens. We love you, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.